Welcome back to Advancing with Amy, and I'm Amy, mental health warrior and neurospicy mama. Today, we're talking with Randi Lee Bowslaugh, and she has a podcast of her own. So, Randi, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So my podcast is called The Write or Die Show. So write like you're writing something. And I talk to other writers all over the world, which is really cool. And we talk about mental health journeys, developmental disabilities, chronic illness. So a lot of different stuff, a lot of neurospicy, as you like to say.
Yeah, that is awesome. So, tell me how you got into this.
Well, I love to talk. Actually, when I was little, I was going to be a famous actor when I grew up. So it just kind of made sense that I would have my own show. And then I'm a writer. So, and a lot of what I've written is nonfiction about my own mental health journey or raising my own kid that has autism. So it really made a lot of sense to focus the show on mental illness and on developmental and all that stuff because it's such a big part of my life and I like being loud about it.
Well, I like that too. I'm glad you are. So, talk to us about your own mental health journey.
Where to begin? Well, way back in the day. No, so that could be a long story. So I've struggled with the depression and PTSD for my own mental illness, and it all started way back as a teenager. Didn't know what the heck it was called though, of course, because in the early 2000s we weren't talking about it, and YouTube was just a baby. So back then, I just thought everybody hates themselves. That's just life. You go through a day hating yourself. You don't.
Right.
Surprise. So it wasn't until I became an adult in my early 20s when I was going through college and university for psychology that I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I have a mental illness. Well, this changes everything because then I could get help for it. Once you know there's a problem, you can get help to fix that problem. So it really did change everything. And then it wasn't until in my 30s. So let me backtrack just a little bit. I know you asked about my mental health journey, but I feel like it's really important that I mentioned in my 20s, my kid was diagnosed with autism because when you're raising a kid with autism and you haven't dealt with your own mental illness, oh, it's a recipe for disaster. So, um, yeah, and then in my 30s, I was also diagnosed with autism. And again, light bulb moment, life makes sense. This is why so many times I felt like I didn't fit in and that kind of thing. And then it was about 2 years ago, I want to say that I was diagnosed with PTSD. And again, wow, finally an answer so I can get help. And it really going through the therapy to deal with the PTSD really it made the biggest difference in the world. Like it really did. So many people think about PTSD. And actually I had somebody on my show this past week that said, or 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And he goes, I thought PTSD was only for people who went to war. Right. And it's actually any traumatic experience can have that happen and having multiple I hate saying smaller ones, but really that's what it is. Multiple smaller ones building up over time. And then you can get into complex PTSD where it's many, many different things all layered in together, culminating in that. So that's the short version.
Well, and I
And
think a lot of people don't realize that even if like a child goes through something that as an adult wouldn't find traumatic, it could be very traumatic for the child that doesn't understand what they're going through or thinks it's something different.
I think that's such a good point because there's so many people that are like, what do you have to be depressed about? What do you have to be anxious about? Because and that's the thing with mental illness. There is no age, there is no race, gender, whatever, right? Anybody, anywhere can have it impact their lives. And so when you think about, little kids, my daughter had her first panic attack age 4. That's young. That is very young. And it's, well, what do you have to be anxious about? You're 4, like go play
Right.
dolls. But that's just not how mental illness works. Mental illness doesn't care how old you are.
Right, exactly. Well, I actually have wondered myself if I have autism. I was I was diagnosed with depression and then bipolar disorder in my, well, I was diagnosed with depression at 18 and diagnosed with bipolar disorder in my 30s.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I did things a little different than you because it sounds like you diagnosed yourself with the depression and then later got diagnosed with the PTSD.
Well, was diagnosed by the doctor with depression, but after I had decided for myself, oh, that is the word that makes sense for this. And I
Right.
mean, I had to get diagnosed in order to get on the antidepressants. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, and that's probably why you went into psychology in the first place, why it was so fascinating to
I
you.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you use that psychology degree?
So I didn't actually finish my psychology degree. So how it went is I went to college first. So I'm in Canada. We've got college and university. And I went to college first for I did pre-community services and community and justice services. Graduated from both of those. And within those courses, I had to take a psychology. And I was like, "Oh, this is so interesting. This is amazing." And I did my placement at a drug and alcohol recovery house, which was very cool. I was like, "I want to be an addiction counselor." Oh, surprise, in Canada, there's not enough funding for that. So that kind of didn't work out well. But because I was really loving psychology, I did go to university. I started taking classes in university while working and having a kid under 10. Uh, and I was taking classes for psychology. I got to my final semester, and during this time, I was working as a social worker. First, I was working in one of our Native Friendship Centers for 2 years until the contract ran out. And then I was working as an employment counselor for another I want to say 4 years or so. So during that time, I realized I don't want to be in social work at
Mm.
all. No, there's just so much red tape and so
Yeah.
many check boxes you have to do for funding because everything is a not for profit. And there was just times I go, well, this is not ethical because I need to keep my funding and
Um,
keep my job. You're wanting me to close files that really no. So I go, I'm not going to continue in social services. I'm going to use this, but I'm not going to continue in social services. So I ended up not finishing that last semester. And I can kind of think back and go, oh, I wish I would have just to have that piece of paper just to say I had my degree. But technically, I never went and finished the degree.
right.
But I
Well,
took all the fun psychology classes. Like I did all the psychology classes up front. And it was all just like the extra ones that you have to pick, all the electives that I just kind of left and went, "Oh, whatever. I got all the good knowledge." So
yeah, so I was gonna say, you've got all the knowledge that comes with it.
exactly. So I would say not having a degree, I used it though through just well, raising my kids
Mm.
because when you kind of have an understanding of brains a little bit, it makes a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding myself and through my writing, because I do write a lot about mental illness, and for my show, when I connect with different people, like it definitely has helped me a lot in different aspects, just not in the typical way when you go to school.
That's okay. I actually am glad that I went through social work, but I struggled with that paperwork as well. I was trying to think of how to put that. Um, the red tape and the things that members have to go through to get the help is is exasperating. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, when
It's
all
very
you want to
easy to get
do
burnt out.
exactly when all you want to do is help your clients, and then
Mhm.
you're being told, well, we have to hit 10 more people success, and it's like, hey, but they still need more help.
Right.
It's so frustrating. It takes such a toll on you, and it really dims the light of what social work could be, should be.
Oh, yeah. I actually, for a very brief time, worked with foster children. And that's why I got out of that and only did it for a brief time, is because I found that there were children that were sent to court. Their parents were sent to court when they shouldn't have been, and
Oh,
they couldn't get their children back. And then there were parents that should have had their children taken away, but in court they got them back because they had the money to hire good lawyers.
yeah, it's so sad. I did a book review for somebody, and now I'm trying. I can picture the way the book looks, but I cannot think of the title off the top of my head. But that's what it was. They were. the infant was taken away, and it's like, no, but look at all this documentation about how we are actually a really good family and why you're taking. They did end
Right.
up getting her back, but it was a very, very long story. And so many people always assume, well, what'd you do wrong? Honestly, sometimes it's that, and I don't know for certain. This is just my guess, is that it happens more with babies because
Hmm.
babies are easy to place and easy to be adopted out.
Right. And they can't speak and tell you that something is wrong or not wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's totally heartbreaking. When I read that story, I was so heartbroken, especially all the other parts where it was like, and people would always look at us and say, "What did we do wrong?" Well, nothing.
Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking,
It was
especially,
awful.
little babies don't deserve that at all. They did nothing wrong, and their parents
Yeah.
just are trying their best. It's so heartbreaking because
Talk
they're
about trauma.
right, and there are definitely people out there that do need their children taken. Like,
Yes.
there is a place. It's just, I guess, finding that line of what actually is right and wrong. And that's,
Yeah. It's a
I could
hard
never
job.
do that job. I will fully admit I could never.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it for very long. So I have a lot of respect for the people that can do that because somebody needs to do it. But
Yeah, exactly. It's just not gonna be us.
right. So tell me a little bit about where people can find your writing. Where are you writing?
So all of my books, they are available on Amazon. I have one book that's actually on Audible. It's called Embracing Me. That one's on Audible. The goal is one day to get them all on, but but they are all on Amazon. If you just search up my name, Randi Lee Bowslaugh, then you'll be able to. All of them will come up. Because I've shockingly written more than I ever thought that I would.
That's amazing. And I wonder why you didn't go into that in the beginning. That's interesting.
I don't know, especially like when I was a little kid, I've always written stories. I've found stories that I wrote when I was little. I'm like, I mean, it's not great writing, but the concept is good.
Right. And are
And
you an avid reader as well?
yes, so I try to read at least one book a week, which some
Wow.
people will say, oh, and some people go,
Well, I think
I
it's a
think it's
lot.
a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not always successful getting a book read every week, but I do attempt to read a book a week. And then I do a book review for them. So on my website on rvwriting.ca, there's a vlog of them all. So you can go and read.
Oh.
And, I do the hard work. I figure out if it's a good book or not. And what's nice is I do pretty much indie authors, which I love. So, because I'm an indie author too, self-published. And there's so many good ones out there that
Oh.
just get enough love. So I do that a lot. And then for other kinds of writing, I'm on Substack now. Uh,
Okay.
so again, just my name, Randi Lee Bowslaugh. So I'm on Substack, and I'm starting because on my show, it's all about the guest, right? And of course, I go on other people's show and love doing that. But on my Substack, I'm trying to explain more my journey and struggle with mental illness and just different things, whatever kind of. So I started. At first, I was talking about food addiction because I'm really trying to decipher my eating issues, and
I've
then
seen there's a big correlation between autism and food issues.
yes, whether it's picky eating or not knowing how much or how little to eat, it is.
Right.
Yeah. So I started really doing a lot of research on that, and then I got sidetracked because something happened with my kid at school, and I'm like, autism meltdowns are not the same as just a temper tantrum. So then I went on this, like, a few blogs about autism and stuff. So it really is just what is happening in my life, and you guys can keep up to date. And I try to give tips and, like, not just a big rant about stuff, but actually try to do something that's really helpful.
That's great. I bet you have a lot of people reach out to you and say, "Oh my gosh, I get this. This so resonates."
Yes. Yeah, I really do. And it's an awesome feeling. Like,
Yeah.
if you've ever wondered, oh, should I tell this person what it means to me? The answer is yes, because it makes us feel like we're doing the right thing and we
Yeah,
keep
I
going.
agree. That's wonderful.
Yeah, you probably get that a lot with your show too. Like,
I am. I'm
women.
still working on my following, but I do get it every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I'll always be working on the following, but I think, yeah, if you can get it every once in a while, it makes the biggest difference.
It keeps you going.
It does, because there's definitely been days especially at the beginning, because I've been doing my show now 3 years at the beginning. And sometimes I'll be like, is this even worth it? Like, am I just wasting time? Does anybody care? And then one person will pop up and leave a comment or say something to me in person. I go, okay, good. I'll keep going. I'll keep.
Yeah, that's exactly because I've thought about throwing in the towel, and then I think, you know, I still want to help people, but I've only been doing it for a year. And so I said to myself recently, I'm going to give it at least 12 more months, one more
Yeah.
year, and
It
we'll
takes a
see.
long time, such a long time.
Yeah. So talk to me about your podcast and what exactly you guys cover on there again.
So we talk about anything. So it started with just being about mental illness. And then because autism and developmental disabilities is a big role in my life, I said, yeah, if you want to talk about autism, you want to talk about learning disabilities, ADHD, any of that, yeah, you can be on the show. And then I mean, I've been suffering from chronic illness for what, 2, 3 years now, and it's completely turned my life upside down. I used to be a competitive kickboxer, and now I can't walk more than a block. It's
Oh, no.
Yeah, that definitely plays with your mind a lot. So again, I said, you know what? Yeah, if somebody wants to talk about chronic illness, yeah, come on the show. And it's always writers. And at the beginning of the show, I was very specific. It was authors. And now I'm like, no, there's more people out there than just authors. So I've had screenwriters on there and somebody who designed their own program for something on there. So any type of writing, if you've done a type of writing, then I'm like, yeah, especially, I mean, 3 years, I got to expand a little bit so I keep having
Right.
fresh guests on. Although I do
That's
have return guests sometimes.
that's great. Now I am interested if you feel comfortable talking about it. What is your chronic illness?
So I have arthritis in both sacroiliac joints, which
Mm.
is basically where your hips come into your pelvis. So it's anytime you're walking, it's right there. And then there's arthritis in other parts of my body and fibromyalgia, which sometimes when it flares up, it's a doozy. And I'm on the ground in tears, like just straight up
Oh.
tears.
And all of that comes back to mental health too, because mental health definitely, it's a circle. It like affects you and your physicality,
Yeah.
but that physicalness also affects your mental health.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious circle.
It is. There's days that I'm like, I'm feeling awesome. And of course, we'll do some exercise or whatever. And then 2 weeks later, like I said, I'm on the ground. Actually just 2 weeks ago, I was like, hey, so I've been riding horses now because it doesn't really hurt that much. Like standing hurt,
Right.
riding doesn't. So I've been focusing
Good.
on that. And then I was like, oh, I'm in so much pain all day long. And I'm like, taking Tylenol, taking a Prox and trying to tough it out, get through it.
Right.
Um, and in the bathroom, I'm braiding my hair. I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm going. And I had already texted my instructor there. I'm like, I'm in so much pain. I don't know, but I'm taking pills. And I'm braiding my hair. I'm doing this. I am just going to mind over matter this. And I walk out of my bathroom. I go, I can't. And I slowly sunk down to my kitchen floor and I just laid there.
Oh,
And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't move.
yeah. How old is your daughter now?
She is about to be 18 in a week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was wondering what she thought when you were having those days, but she's old enough to understand that now.
Yes, yeah, she definitely is, and she actually just not this morning, yesterday morning, I'm sitting on the stool in the kitchen. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sore." She goes in the cupboard, she grabs Tylenol, hands it to me. And of course, like it's loving and sweet, but she can't be too sweet. She has to make sure that she's not too sweet. She goes, "Just because I want to not hear you complain all day." What a reason, thank you.
I love that. That sounds so much like my daughter.
Right? I'm gonna
Oh,
be
how
sweet.
funny.
I want to make sure you know I'm not too sweet. Don't get your
Right,
hopes up.
exactly. There's a line. So you find going to university, you're going to university now?
No, that was right out of college. So it's been, I want to say like 10 years since I chose
Oh,
that.
okay.
I've been graduated a long time. It's
So are you
lovely. I like,
working
yeah.
now?
Yes. So whenever somebody asks, I'm always like, I'm an author, but it doesn't pay the bills. Yeah. So
Oh,
I work in an office actually at a driving school and it's a lot of fun. And I use my social work stuff there too. Not the same way, obviously, but talking with different people, knowing how to calm a situation down. Like there's so many things that you learn that are transferable that nothing is
Mhm.
ever a waste.
No, I always say it's social work school is filled with communication skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So do you find it hard with your mental health and your chronic illness to go to work on a regular basis?
There are definitely days that I have called in and said, I cannot sit. I just need to lay here. I need to be horizontal. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Be horizontal today. But so pre-COVID and probably around 2019, 2018, 2018, I think it was. I had quit full time and I had already taken 2 leaves of absences for mental illness. And at that time, my kid was going, for lack of a better term, completely crazy.
Oh,
But so somebody had to be home. We
yeah.
going to school just was not working. Somebody had to be home with her and figure it out and take her to all of these different appointments and figure stuff out. And I said, well, I'm already at my wit's end with social work. I am already, can't do it anymore. I just can't. So I took time off and then I started writing more. Um, COVID hit, shut everything down for a long time.
Mhm.
So then when after COVID, in 2022, because Canada shut down for like 2 years, it was ridiculous. I started going back to work part-time, just 15 hours a week. Let's just slowly get back
Mhm.
into it to see A, if my body could handle it. Because by that time, yeah, the fibromyalgia and everything was flaring. And B, if my kid can handle it now, because it had been quite a few years, right? And she was doing so much better, found the right medication, did lots of therapy, doing so much better. And so I slowly worked back into it, and now I'm working 30 hours a week, and the but my work knows that, there's days that I've got doctor's appointments to go to for it, like, in 2 weeks, I have to go get another nerve ablation, which is sticking giant needles into your spine and burning your nerves.
Mm,
It hurts so much, but, like, I
yeah,
just
it
tell
sounds like it.
yeah, but the alternative is honestly being in so much pain that you can't eat like, I can't even make it to the bathroom. So yeah, it sucks, but at least it gets me to function again. But yeah, I just say to my work, "Oh, I need this day off. It's needles day." And they're like, "Oh, it's needles day."
Yeah. So it sounds like you have an understanding employer.
Yeah, everybody there is so nice. And that's what makes work good, right? Like when you love the people that you work with, it really doesn't matter what
Yeah.
the job is.
Yeah.
They always say love the job and it never feels like work. Well, I love writing, but sometimes it still feels like work.
Yeah.
But going to work there is really nice because, well, first I get out of the house and get to talk to,
Mhm.
adults, but it's just fun because everybody is so nice. And if you're having a rough day, they care. Like they
Yeah.
actually care. So it's good.
Yeah, I love the people I work with and they do make it easier to go, but even then I do have days like you do where I just cannot get out of bed.
Yeah.
And so I have to call in. Luckily, we have FMLA laws. Do you have something like that, family and medical leave?
We do have similar types of things, but not if it's only like a 1 or 2 day type of thing. And
Oh,
there's
so we
lots of
have
rules around it.
intermittent where you
Yeah.
could call in for like 2 hours if you need.
Oh, wow, no, we don't have that, although certain businesses will have, like, sick days that
Oh,
you can use for it, but, yeah, no, that would be a nice one.
yeah, that would be. All right. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you, Randy. Can you tell us, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to discuss or anything you'd like to leave everybody with?
I mean, we only touched the tip of the iceberg, really, but honestly, the biggest thing, and I think we've said it a lot, is that life is tricky. We might have this plan that we think of in our head, and it doesn't go the way that we think, whether it's because we end up having a this is gonna sound horrible, but we end up having a kid with autism.
Right.
Because let's be real, any parent, we don't plan that,
You don't wish that on your kid? No.
right? You wouldn't wish your kid to be born with any kind of illness.
Right.
So we're thrown a curveball. Doesn't mean we love them any less, but we're thrown a
Right.
curveball. So no matter what you think life is gonna be, sometimes we gotta roll with it. And there's awesome shows like this, like mine, like other ones where you can feel like you're not the only one, because that is the worst
Right.
feeling in the world, to feel like the only
Oh,
one.
I love that. I totally agree. All right, great. Remind us one more time where we can find you.
My website is rbwriting.ca, but I'm also on Facebook at RB Writing. I am on Instagram, TikTok, Substack, all at Randi Lee Bowslaugh. And then the YouTube, you can either put in RB Writing or Write or Die Show, and both things should come up.
Great. I'm going to personally look up your audiobook because I'm a big audiobook listener. So I'll
Me
be
too.
checking
That's why I
that.
was like, gotta do that. And that
Yeah.
one's all about depression. So just to give you a heads up.
Oh, okay, good. Then that'll be right down my alley.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Randy. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thanks. In today's episode of Advancing with Amy, we had the pleasure of speaking with the inspiring Randi Lee Bowslaugh, host of the Write or Die podcast, spelled WRITE. We delved into her journey with mental health, discussed the intricate challenges of raising a child with autism, and her experiences navigating life with chronic illness. Randi also shared insights from her writing career and how she intertwines her personal experiences with her literary works. A huge thank you to Randi Lee for joining us and bearing her soul with our listeners. If you were moved by her story and want to learn more about her books or her podcast, make sure you check the show notes for all the links to her social media and more. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to keep up with our latest episodes. See you next time on Advancing with Amy, Mental Health Warrior and Neurospicy Mama.